Okay, we are here to talk about teleportation in Planet Crafter. And if you've never used the teleporters, you're in for a nice and pleasant surprise. It should come as no surprise that teleporters just allow you to jump around very easily from one spot to another on the planet that you're on. Now, I should tell you that these only work on the planet you're on. You can't go from planet to planet yet. That would be cool if you could do that. Maybe they'll have that in an update someday where you have some souped up teleporter that you have to get. It should cost a ton of materials, but that would be kind of neat. I doubt, though, they'll do it because that would defeat the point of using the rockets, which makes the game interesting. I'm sort of thinking about that as I talk. Okay, so now while teleportation might seem simple, it's sort of difficult to do early in the game, and that's because of the materials that you need to get. So let's go ahead and sort of take a look at those materials. You'll see here that you need a super alloy rod, osmium, zeolite, obsidian, pulsar quartz, two of them. Now, the pulsar quartz are actually the hardest ones to get. The other ones you can sort of get a little bit easier. Well, maybe the super alloy rod because you need 8 super alloys plus a silver, so that might be a little difficult too. But the pulsar quartz, there's not a lot of those on the planet, so you have to go to the mines and get them. I will say early on, later on, you'll be able to make it as many as you want. I mean, you can see here, I've got an auto crafter just building these constantly, so that won't be a problem later on. But the early two issues early are going to be energy. You can see here it costs 276, so you got to make sure you have the right energy, and obviously having enough pulsar quartz. Now you can either, like I said, either mine them or go ahead and find them. Now I will say with that amount of energy it takes up, you might need to build a nuclear fusion generator. But as you can see, that takes up 5 pulsar quartz. So you may, if you're low on pulsar quartz, you may want to just build the T2 nuclear reactor because that just takes 3 uranium rods. Now, here's kind of like what I like to do is get the T2 ore extractor, which allows you basically to get unlimited uranium. Then you can build as many of these things as you want, and you'll have a lot of energy. So that's really something to think about. If you don't have a lot now, if you have a lot of pulsar quartz, by all means, like let's say you have 20 pulsar quartz you've collected in the early to mid game, and you just unlocked teleporter. Well, that means you can build a couple nuclear fusion generators and have some left over to build some teleporters. So that's the first point I want to make about the energy. The second point is you're going to need double this. So effectively, you're going to need 4 pulsar quartz, 2 obsidian, 2 zeolites, 2 osmium, and 2 super alloy rods. Now, you might be asking why. Well, it doesn't really help to build one teleporter. You actually need 2 to go somewhere. So that's the point I want to make. You actually need double. So let's go check. I do believe this is actually a game save I have, but I have many game saves, so I want to check and see. Yes, I've got 16,000. And once you get the energy boosts, energy is not going to be a problem for a while. I think these are all boosted by the energy boost. So without ado, so we've talked about those two sort of things, energy and the materials. Now let's actually talk about how to build, where to build them. Now, we'll talk about that in a minute. I just want to actually show you how to when you construct it, what you do. Now, first of all, this one I always like to build my first one and call it home or base one, whatever you want to call it. So this has already been done. So let's go build a second one that we can teleport to, and we're just going to build it over here. I don't really care. I've already got the materials, and again, the materials are you need 2 fusion cells. Did I not point that out earlier? I think I might have had. Was I on the wrong? I don't know if I was on the right one, but yeah. So you're going to need 2 fusion cells, 2 pulsar quartz, obsidian, zeolite, osmium, and a super alloy rod. So if you find these fusion cells, save those as well because you're going to need them. All right. So you can see here. Oh wait, you don't need them. I am so sorry. I am totally wrong. Why was I building those? Okay, so I forgot. You don't need them. I'm not sure why I was actually building those. You don't need them. I apologize. You don't. You just so it's actually a little bit easier than I thought. I don't know why I had that in my head, but you don't need those. You just need these three. So let's go ahead and build it. We're going to put it right here. You can see here you can actually rotate it if you want. We're not going to rotate it, but you can if you want. You can see the arrow is basically where you enter into it. And there we go. Now the first thing you do is you have to name it. So you don't actually have. I think you actually do. I think it does actually. Let's see. No, you don't. You could actually. You don't have to name it, but I highly recommend you do so you know where you're going and what it is, because you'll have several of these. So we're just going to call this test. That's it. And you just hit outside of it. There it is. And there's the name of it. And if we come here, we won't see it here because we're in that teleporter, but we'll see all the rest of the names. So what we're going to do now is go just back to our home base. And there it threw us in here. Now, early on in the game, you may want to build these inside so you don't teleport outside if if your oxygen is a concern. But I've already terraformed this planet, so oxygen doesn't matter. You can still build them outside, but I generally recommend you build them inside, but I've built them outside before. It doesn't really matter that much. I'm just letting you know that if you walk away, you teleport, and sometimes I do that a lot. I'll teleport and I'll walk away. You might forget that you're losing oxygen, if that makes any sense. Okay, so there, we came to the home. Now, there's a couple other points I want to make. First is you can move the teleporters around where you want to see them. I usually keep my bases at the top, so this was like the new zone. Let's go over there. You can see this is sort of the new zone they created in the last update, so I call that one new zone. Whoops, I don't want to rename that. And then I have a base 2 over here. So I sort of keep those at the top where my bases are, and then what I do is I keep the mineral teleporters, as I like to call them, below. Now, early on, these are going to be very helpful when you're really trying to get resources before the drone era, as I call it. When you get drones, it's going to be a lot easier. I will tell you that. When you get drones, in fact, I have a video on drones. In the link description, there is a link to the rest of my tutorials, and you should watch that on drones because they're important. So again, early on, I like to build teleporters to all of the minerals. Because I can get them easier. Now, when you develop drones, these become less useful. You could actually probably destroy them because now drones are doing all the work you don't have to do. But early on, I find this incredibly useful. The big 4, as I call them, that I like to get are, for teleporters, super alloy. Obviously, that's a material that's in so many different... In fact, let's go there. It's just so many things you want to build. So actually, you can see I have a bunch of mine extractors going on here, so that's in so many. So that's one. Uranium's another big one. That's the second one. Aluminum, that would be another big one. So, and iridium. So iridium, uranium. Let's actually go to the home base so I can read them off easier. So the big 4, the first 4, the first one I always do is actually aluminum. Then I do super alloy, iridium, and uranium, those 4. Osmium you can do a little bit later, zeolite a little bit later, obsidian a little bit later. But those are the first 4 I like to build materials to so I can run around and get them. But like I said, these become less useful now. I rarely go here. In fact, like I said, you could probably go there and just destroy the teleporter because I don't have any reason to go there anymore. And again, like I said, you can move them, so I could move super alloy above base 2 if I wanted. You can rearrange these. They really designed this game very, very well. Actually, I want to move the base 2 back up. There we go. So you can arrange these the way you want to see them. And that's pretty much it. That's how teleporters work. Thanks for watching. And again, I have more tutorials in the link to this video. Thank you.